Good evening, everyone. Hey, Miss Debbie. How are you? Let me get Facebook going and I'll be right back. Hey, Christy. Let me get Facebook up and going. Hopefully it'll work. Sometimes you never know. All right, give me just a second to get all the technology together. And I'll have to have somebody on Facebook tell me if they can see me on there. It says I'm live, but I don't see it yet. It may just take a second to do that. So those of you that are on YouTube, I put a code at the top. It's pinned to the top of the comments. There is a coupon code that you can use for the next week until the 15th. Live 1024, all caps, and that'll save you 10% on your products. Okay, so I'm still looking at YouTube. It says I'm live, but I don't see it. So I'm not sure. Hey, Bobby. Debbie, can you pop over to Facebook? And I guess I can do it on my phone and see if I'm live. It says I'm live, but it doesn't. Oh, it is there. Okay. Hey, Cheryl. I just can't see the comments, I guess. All right. So bear with me. Let me see if I can get the comments up. They keep changing stuff. So I'm not sure where I'm going to open another page and go over there and see if I can find it. Hey, Gregory. Hey, Rose. Teresa Shipsy. Miss Nancy. Ladybug. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go down here and see if I can see the comment. All right. Hey, Luann. All right, so I am going to, on Facebook, I'm going to share. I shared earlier on Facebook the link to the blog. And the blog, if you're not familiar, is where I put, if I have any patterns that I'm giving to you with the live, if there's photographs, anything to do with the live, whether it's just the link to a video or anything else. So it is there for you. Okay. So be sure and check those out. And I will do my best to answer questions as I see them pop up. Okay. Is that a typo in the coupon? What did I put? It's LIVE 1024. That should be it. And it needs to be all caps, like live. We're live tonight. So tell me, it looks like I spelled it right on my end. I'm going to show it on the screen in just a minute also, okay, in case there's any questions. All right, everyone. So welcome. Tonight, I'm going to show you how to do this blue and white poinsettia, but I'm also going to show you how you can create a colored piping. And this is something different. I don't believe I've ever showed this. I may have done it one time at a retreat, but I have not done it on Facebook that I can remember. If I did, it's been many years ago, and I felt like it was something that needed to be taught to you guys. And it's pretty cool how we do it. So this gives you an option. If you don't have the low fire, no fire piping paste, if you don't have different things, this would be another way to create a piping. I haven't tested this. I had a question whether you could put this type of piping between glass. I have a little sample here that I'm going to put it on, and I will cap it with a clear piece of glass, and I will let you know whether or not it works. I'll show you the pictures of it. Okay. I just expected 2020. Oh, okay, Deb. So yeah. It's just 24 for the year. I did not put the, see, I'm tricking you so that you got to pay attention to it. But if there's anything you need, I'm going to turn my camera down and I'm going to show you that. Okay, so the blog has this piece of paper. It's 2 pages. So it has the pattern, I gave you the flower pattern that I did also. I reduced the poinsettia pattern here for you. Gave you basic instructions. I did mess up. It should be a pink tip is what I used, not a yellow tip. And I'll explain that as I'm going. 3 basic products: white, powder blue, and cerulean, glass medium. And then you could choose to do it with any glitz. I'm going to use the 605 burnished gold for the little veining and stuff on top. So some of this gold is underneath and some is on top. You can see on the left-hand side of my screen, I put a photograph of the basic piping. That is what you start with. Okay, so that's gold. I gave you my firing schedule and everything. So even if you don't do glass, if you do ceramics, you can take those patterns and use them and enjoy that. Okay, so that is on the blog. Just go to glass because this is glass related, and then go down to the photograph of the blue poinsettia. So to transfer a pattern to glass, you take inexpensive tissue paper, take your tissue, lay it over your pattern, and then trace it with a pencil. Okay, trace it with the pencil first, and you can see that here. Maybe you can see that. Let me flip this over. See the one here that's a pencil? Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to your glass. Now, I mistakenly, well, not mistakenly, I went ahead and prepped these, but if you were on the glass here and you wanted that flower on there, we're going to take the Statler Tri Plus fine liner, and I'm going to turn on this overhead so you can see that. It may glare on the glass. I may have to turn it off. Statler Tri Plus fine liner. It's like got a Sharpie point, but it is a water-based marker, so it won't interact with the product. Okay, so I'm just going to trace one petal. So what you're going to do is just gently go over that tissue and go slowly so that the marker has time to bleed through. Okay, and it traces the pattern. Now it's very light. You can go over it again with the marker directly if you want. Okay, so this one I just sketched on. I've traced the other patterns on. So that's how you trace and transfer a pattern. You can do this just freehand. So if you're good at sketching, you can say, okay, here's the middle of my poinsettia, and I want to do one petal here, and then I've got another one here. So you can draw directly onto the glass. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. You see me in the comments on both. Okay, hey Brenda, Annette, thanks for joining everyone. I'm just double checking on the comments and everything. Okay, so you can do it directly on there. Don't use a Sharpie marker. Sharpies on the glass. The Sharpies have a tendency to repel the product. I just wouldn't use it. I'd use the water-based marker. Okay. Any questions on that? So that's base. I know you guys had said you want to go back over some basic information. That's why I'm going through this with you, just because I feel like there are new people and people that may not know. Okay, so let me know if there's any questions on transfer. So here is the finished piece, and sometimes cameras don't do it justice as far as the coloring. I ended up putting a blue piece of glass behind the white, so I decorated on top of white. And I like to do that because it gives it a nice frame, and then I can slump this into a little dish or whatever. Now, I don't know if you can tell, there is texture, and you can kind of see it on the dots there. See how the dots are raised? And that depends on how hot you go. Okay, everything with glass, that's a big, make sure you know how hot you're going to go. I went to 1420, okay, with a 10-minute hold because I had some other things in there, plus the fact I like to leave this. I want it just enough that it's going to fuse to it and melt, and it's a pretty seamless, there you don't feel the edge. If you wanted to go lower, you could, minimum of 1380, but there is texture to this piece, okay? So as you can see in the left-hand corner of the screen, you pipe first. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you a piece. I've prepped a piece just so you can kind of see. So I've done a couple of petals and a leaf just so that it's ready for one of the other steps and we don't have to sit here and watch paint dry. Okay. Hey, Annette. Hey, Carolyn, how are you? Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you how, well, first I need to show you how to make the piping. Okay. Now, I already have the gold done up and I put it in here. So I decided, and let me show you that coupon code. Okay, so if you want to save 10% on anything you purchase on the website, that includes brushes, glass paint, ceramic paint, it doesn't matter. You've got 10% off if you make sure you enter the code live 1024, all caps. It's good through next week, the 15th. All right. That way, if somebody's watching this later, they're not thinking or getting upset that they are not going to get it, the coupon. So I had this piece of blue glass and I thought this would make a beautiful tray, 6 by 12. I've transferred the full design here and I transferred just a part. And all I did was move the pattern off the piece and transfer. And then I went over my lines with the marker so that you guys could see it. I could see it with just the tissue transfer, but I wanted to make sure that you could see it. This particular piece of glass is really pretty on the other side. Isn't that great? So what I'm going to do is put a piece of clear behind it and I'll leave my design on the top. But I want to do silver on this one as opposed to gold. So what I thought tonight is your gold would be mixed the same way, but I'm going to show you how to mix. We're going to do silver instead. Okay. Hey, Karen Ashford from New Zealand. Thanks for joining. So when we're going to use layering mix, believe it or not. I think you guys probably thought we were going to use paste and tint it. You could do that, but this is another use. So if you have a lot of layering mix, and this is really cool the way it works. This is a third-party product that we carry on the website. Just type in layering or mix and it'll bring it up. Don't shake it. It does separate in the container. This is a pint. It comes in an 8 ounce also, and you can get an 8 ounce with jars if you need some empty jars. Just gently back and forth. And what that's going to do is not put so many bubbles into the product. Because if you shake it, it gets really bubbly. And even just doing that, do you see all the bubbles? Crazy, huh? Crazy, crazy. All right. So to make a piping, we want 3 teaspoons of layering mix. And we're going to do 5 teaspoons of whatever color you want. I'm going to choose silver this time. Okay. So, and then make sure you have a tool so you can level out. You want to get the same amount on your tool. So what I'm going to do is just kind of make sure that that should be right at yeah, there's 1. So we're going to do 5 of these. You could take your finger across that, but the sparkle is really going to get all over you. I mean, there's different ways you can dispense it and put it on here. And I know I'm dropping a little bit in there. There's 3. Now, as this gets to the bottom. So what I wanted to explain is 1 ounce, 28 grams of the sparkle or any color is gonna for pretty much make 1 batch. So I wanted you to be able to see that in 5. Now I like to use a different spoon for my liquid. So I have my dry spoon and I have my liquid spoon. And we're going to take 3 of the layering mix, and this is written on that paperwork. 1, 2, and 3. Hi, Lynn. Hey, Lori. You're waiting on your pizza. I wish I could eat pizza. I can't have any of that right now. Hey, Mary Coral. How are you? Hey, Debbie Reynolds. This is a really cool technique, guys. I think you'll like it. So I've got silver sparkle and layering mix. So you want more powder than liquid because you want it thicker. You may have to add a little bit more to it. I can tell you the gold sparkle is a little coarser than what the silver is. So I may have to add a little bit, just make a little bit more powder. Just make sure you grind it on the edge. I have a 4-ounce cup here, and this is going to make a little over 2 ounces. But when you put it in the bottle, it really is like 1 ounce, because we're going to use a 1-ounce piping. So it's pretty thick. I think we're good with that. And it all depends on also what tip you use. Okay, so let me show you the tips. Let's come in closer so you can see. So the black is the finest, and then you've got yellow, and then you've got pink, and then you have white. Okay, I chose to go with the pink one. If you go smaller, you're going to get a smaller line. Depending on how thick or thin the product is that you're putting through the tip, well, it may not come through, and it may be too, like this big one, it may be too runny and it just spreads out, and you're not going to get a nice fine line with it. Okay, so keep that in mind. Try the different ones and see what works best for you. We sell piping kits that come with a bottle and a cap, but we also, if you have a bunch of bottles, we sell this cap kit accessory kit. So it's just 2 lids, all 4 tips, the syringe to clean it, and then the tool to clean the tips. Okay. All right. I think 10 for October. You are correct, Ladybug. Yep. Since this is October, that's why I did my code that way. So let me show you again. Live 10, 24 for 10% savings. Okay. All right. So then I'm just going to take this and pour it in there. Let's hope it goes in smoothly and doesn't make a mess. And then I'll have to end up doing it with the tool when I get down to the end of it. Because I don't want to waste. And yes, I could have had this done beforehand, but I think it helps you to see it, because then you're more apt to try it and succeed with it instead of me just telling you how to do it. So hopefully that helps. Sorry, scratching. I want to get all that in there. Any questions about the mix? So each color of enamel could be coarser depending on the products, you know, the materials that it's made with. So you may have to add more liquid, being the layering mix, or you may have to add more powder. Okay, so even though that was a 4-ounce cup, okay, this is 4 ounces, it only put about ½ an ounce in there. That's about half full. Make sure you clean your tools off. Anything that has layering mix on it, you definitely want to keep them clean, because layering mix will harden. And then guess what? Your tool is going to be harder to clean off. So I'm going to wipe off that excess on the top, add that lid to it. Now, once you have the product in there, I don't stand it up. I'm going to shake it down, and I'm going to leave it laying down when I work, because every time you stand it up, lay it down, stand it up, lay it down, you're going to end up getting air bubbles in here, and then it's going to like explode, or I don't want to say the word I was thinking, but it just basically, it poofs out on your piece, and it's not a good thing at all. Okay, make sure you have a paper towel of some sort folded in 4s. And then what I'm doing is just going over here to my water, and I'm wetting the corner, because I want to keep my tip clean and free of debris, meaning anything hard that's on it. So on the caps, you have a cap closure here, just lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So take that off. Same thing with the tips. Half a turn to the right, it's on. Don't keep turning, because it'll end up, you'll never get it off of there. That's all you need, is that. And then always test it to make sure that it's coming out. Okay. So I'm going to just I'll do this little one real quick. Okay. So this is just a flower, not the poinsettia. We'll do the other one. But can you see? You can come in and create texture on that edge. The thickness of this is about the thickness of a pencil lead. And do you think I have a pencil here? No, I've got a mechanical pencil. Can you see the thickness of that? And then if you were doing a circle in the middle of this, as opposed to dots, okay, you would do a half a turn and a half a turn. So half and a half, because if you go like this, you're scratching off what you're putting on and you're not going to have a nice finish. Okay. If you don't like something, just wipe it off. Same way with your pattern. Okay. So I will finish that one later, but let's do more on this big one. What was the gold sample? Rose is asking mix on the poinsettia. So I have a blog out there for you. I did post it at the top of the feed there on YouTube, Rose. It's gold sparkle with layering mix. And it's 3 parts layering mix to 5 parts gold sparkle, or whatever color of enamel you want to make it. It could be pink. It doesn't matter. I just happen to choose one of the sparkles. Okay. So it's 5 parts dry enamel to 3 parts liquid. You want to make it thicker so that it will stand up on the glass. Hey, Kim, thanks for joining. Okay. And then I transfer the pattern using the tissue paper. All right. So instead of doing gold again, I'm going to do silver tonight because I thought it would be a good thing for you guys to see. Okay. So, and that light is going to be a problem. All right. So I like to start in the middle and then go out from there. So I'm going to do my half and a half. It's like a C and a C. Because if I keep going all the way around, I'm going to scratch off what I'm putting on. Does that make sense, everybody? It doesn't matter if you're piping with anything. The low fire, no fire, it doesn't matter. Does the glass manufacturer make a difference? Luann is asking. No, it doesn't. As long as it's fusible, you use whatever. So mine happens to be 96. That's what I am. I have a little bit of 90. But no, as long as you can fuse it, because you do have to fire this to a minimum of 1380. I went to 1420 with a 20-minute hold. Will the finished piece be food safe? There is a texture to this, okay? So that's why I'm going to do one of the small samples, and I'm going to cap it with clear, and I'll let you know if it has a tremendous, I'll show you how many bubbles it has or it doesn't. I think it'll work, but that's a good question, Christy. The sparkles need to be fired before they're capped, because otherwise they do not retain their sparkles, except for the copper. The copper can go between glass. Okay. As long as you sift generously with clear powdered frit, I sifted between the 2 pieces of glass here. But if you had this on the top and you put the clear over it, you need to sift. Okay. Things are quiet here in Orlando. Okay, good, Kim. Yeah, everybody that's in that path of the hurricane. Of course, you guys probably saw I drove right into the other one a week ago. That was not fun. So our prayers are with all of you down there. Just be safe. Don't take any chances. I've got teachers that were in Tampa and moved to, she went south, Miss Cindy Lay. And I've got friends in Ocala, and of course, all the one-stroke people that are near the Orlando area. So keep them all in your prayers. I hope it weakens and you don't have it as bad as they're predicting. Okay, so see how I'm staying in contact. If you've never piped, you need to stay in contact with the glass. And what I mean by that, I'll hold this small enough, is you literally are touching the surface and scratching it, not gouging it, but you are letting it glide right on top of the glass. See how I stopped and I started back up to go to it. Okay, because if I go around it, then I'm working against myself, and whatever's coming out, I'm scratching it off. You need to come away, just like you would write with a pencil. Okay, come away. Okay. Any other questions about that? I'm going to move this out of the way before I put my finger in it, is what I'll end up doing. So I'm going to just do one of these so that you can see it, and then I'll finish it later and post a picture. So the pattern is just a guide. Doesn't mean you have to. See, I skipped there, so I'm just going to go back, fill that in, constantly coming over to that damp paper towel and clean off your tip, because if you get a lot of goopy on here, you're not going to have a nice fine line. You're going to transfer all that to your piece, and then you've got a blob. So it's almost like every stroke that's fairly long, I will tend to wipe it off. So like before I start a petal, I'm going to wipe it off. But even if you were doing this with the paste and you use the white paste or the black paste, which would be perfectly fine, I just wanted to show you another way that you could create a piping in a color. Okay, so see how I went this way? I'm constantly going. I can't go backwards on this one. So what I have to do is either turn it, or I would do it one step at a time. So I just turned it so that I can now continuously see what's coming out of my tip. Because if you're going backwards on it, you can't see what's coming out. You're watching how I'm resting my arm. Yeah, I tend to anchor myself. If you have a bridge, you could use that, and I can get one out to show you. The nice thing about this is if you have an area that you don't like, you can always scratch it off with a paper or with a toothpick or any kind of a tool. So just constantly turn your piece. Don't try to leave it in one spot, okay? But I'm at an angle here. Now I can turn this on. Let me put the side and the overhead, and then you can see. Okay, so now you can see, I think, let me lift it up just a little bit. You can see that I'm touching the glass and just dragging it along. The faster you move, the finer the line. I tend to go with just a steady pace, and you can see what's coming out. I've got a gap there, so I'm going to fill that in. And every time I go away from here, I'm just going over to my paper towel and taking anything off of that tip. Okay. Any questions about that? Hopefully you can see it on the camera. And you can also sign your name with this also. I'm going to turn it back around. Does that help, having the side camera, hopefully? Let's go back to the overhead. Trying to do all this yourself is crazy, but I wanted you to be able to see. Now, I have an area that's kind of thick there. You could come in with a toothpick or a brush. You could use your glass brush. Make sure it's dampened, blot it on a paper towel, and you could lift some of that off, constantly rinsing it. But I can also scratch it off when it dries, or I can just put some enamel over it when I'm doing my painting. Okay. Hey, Stacy. Hey, Sandy. And Miss Kim, another Kim. Hey there, guys. All right. Any questions on the actual piping part of it? And I'll try to look up, and I'll do this one real quick. So you can see it goes pretty fast. Half and a half, 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 half. So I'm doing a half of a circle. Does that make sense? Because you don't want to scrape off what you're putting on. Okay. Any questions on this part of it? Just make sure you have a solid line. So the other thing is you are building a dam that's going to hold your product. So you need it thick enough, the line thick enough that it's not going to run out. And you need it in contact with the glass. Because if you don't, same thing, it's going to go under the dam and get somewhere that you don't want that particular color. Okay, so Nancy Nelson is saying, I assume that if there's anything left in the bottle, that it will harden. You know, as long as you put the cap, you're going to clean the tip out, and I'll show you that. As long as you put that cap closure back on there, that little cap, and then I would put it in a Ziploc bag, and then that's going to keep it as long as possible. It doesn't, you have a little bit of time. But if you're not going to use it in the next month, I would say, I would probably take it out and put it in another container, because once it gets hard in the bottle, it's going to be a pain to try to get out of there. Because there's, like I said, this filled about half. So we use 5 teaspoons of the enamel and 3 teaspoons of layering mix to create this thicker product to pipe with. The higher you go, it's going to absorb into your glass or fall down into, melt into, however you want to refer to it. Okay? So keep that in mind. It's not necessarily going to be standing up. So if you wanted it food safe, go hotter, go to a full fuse. It'll just have the colored line. Remember that the sparkles, if you're using the sparkle like I'm doing here and on the gold, you don't want to cap it. You don't even want to sift over it. You have to come back and cap it. Otherwise, it can really bleach out the color. So the gold turns like a flesh tone when you cap it, unless you fired it and set it first. Now, you can use this, you can put cookies on it or a doily over it, whatever, but there is a texture to it, and I think you can see that when the light hits it. See, especially the little berries, the little dots, for sure. All right, any questions? Speak up. I'll try to catch them, and I'll go back and I will answer them also. It's hard for me to see all the Facebook comments. The YouTube ones I can usually catch. Facebook is not as easy for me. Sometimes they go by so fast. So I'm holding the bottle so that I can see what's coming out of my tip. You do not want to go backwards. I wouldn't want to start here and go down, because I'm going to scrape off what I'm putting on, and you won't have a nice line. Always start from where it grows from. So everything grows from the center out. So you wouldn't start out here on the tip and go in, because I want to get that nice fine point on the outside. So keep that in mind. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's from the grass, the bottom up, or the center of something out. So I can go this way because I can see everything. Remember what I said earlier? We got to turn it around so that I can now come this direction and continue to see what's being dispensed out of my bottle. Now, while I'm here, I can go ahead and do this one because it's on the same side. And your pattern is a guide. Doesn't mean it has to be exact. Okay, so I think that gives you a good representation of how to do the piping. And it takes a minute for that to dry. It takes a few minutes for it to dry. You can kind of see this one's glossy, it has a shimmer. this one over here, the sheen has started to go away, so it's starting to dry. Okay. You just love my elegant artwork. Well, thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. Would you please mention again the colors of the glass you used? On the original one, I used white opal. I'm a 96 person, 96 COE. And don't ask me what this blue is. It's almost like a gray blue, you know, because I use mostly white and clear because of the enamels. And then I just go in there and usually I don't plan it. I just go find a color that I think will match it. I take my little chip charts in there and say, okay, this should go with it. This one here is an older Spectrum, when Spectrum was there, opal art. See that? And all I'm doing is using the back side of it because I want this to be the top, soft and subtle, when I put the colors on it. And then what I'm going to do to make it two thicknesses is just put a clear behind it. And that way the back side of the plate will be pretty also. Okay. How about the toucan or the rooster? I'm not sure what you're asking, Wendy. I know you're working on glass, but the firing process different on ceramics. Mary asked that question. Is the firing process different on ceramics? Not really. You can do it to the same temperature. You need to make sure that you clean whatever surface you're working on with white distilled vinegar is the best for our products. Okay, white distilled, and I just happen to use this shop towel and I put it on there and then I cleaned all my pieces before I started. Okay. So, Wendy Retzer, tell me what you're asking about the toucan. Well, the toucan that you did, if I remember correctly, out in Phoenix that time, we used the black paste on that. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry. I can do this one. I can clean this and show you the gold on this. So does everybody understand layering mix, 3 parts, whatever your part mixture is, to 5 parts of your enamel, whatever color you're going to use. Okay, whether it's the gold that I used on the first one, which was the GS 503, that was the sample. It's the one in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And then tonight I made silver to put on the blue because I thought the silver would be really pretty on there. Hopefully that Wendy, hopefully that answers yours too. Now let me show you how to clean the tip because I have the silver and I don't, well, I need to show you anyway. Let me throw that away. Grab my water bowl. So here's my pink tip. You get the syringe. Remember I showed you, you've got a syringe that comes with your piping kit or if you buy the cap kit accessory. So pull some water up into that syringe, attach the tip the same way you did on the bottle, and flush it clean. So pull water in and out of there until you're sure that it's really super clean. Because layering mix does harden, so you want to make sure it's clean. Make sure you blot it on a paper towel when you get done. There also is this little, some of them are green, some are blue, the little Q-tip looking thing in there. You can get it down in there and clean that out also. Okay. Don't need that anymore. So anytime you clean, if it say, oh, I don't want it on there, I want it on the gold. And I'm going to leave this laying down so it eliminates the bubbles. Anytime you clean it, even if you're using the same, maybe it's too hard to push, you can't get anything coming out, so clean it. You want to make sure that you test it because there's water that can be inside that tip and you don't want to have it flood on top of your piece. Now I am going to give this a little bit of a shake. And I see what I did here. I got water on this. Yeah, be careful with your cleaning your tips. Don't get ambitious. Hey, D. YouTube ran a commercial at the same time that you were giving the amounts. Okay, no problem. So it is on the if you go to my blog, which is pinned, or it's the first comment on the YouTube there, D. It you can go to the piece out on my blog and print this out, and it's written in there also. It's 3 teaspoons of layering mix and 5 teaspoons of your enamel, whatever color that is. Okay. So the reason I shook that up is because I can't see in the bottle. I can't tell if it's separated, because layering mix will separate. And so I did this 2 days ago. I want to make sure that it's definitely mixed properly. And you can see on this one, this was just a little white 3-inch circle. And then I put it on this because I was firing 2 pieces of glass for the others. I needed this. And I kind of thought it showed the gold off really nicely. So this just has an outline and then some glitz on it. So you can keep it just as simple, or you can do the painting like we're going to do on the poinsettia. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. So let me do this one real quick. Let's check to make sure it's coming out. Do my little circles, half and half. And this is, like I said, even if you were doing clay dimensions or the piping paste on ceramics, you still would do the same thing. You want to always go to the right, or if you're left-handed, go to the left. You just don't want to scrape off what you're putting on is the key. Stay in contact with the glass. So all those other lines that see, I almost did it. I forgot to turn. Otherwise, I'd been scraping it off what I was putting on. So you got to stop and think about what you're doing there. All right, so then I'm going to turn it. And I'm going to, so this would be very elegant just to do this alone. You don't have to put any color in it. Okay. What about the toucan or the rooster? Wendy, I still need to know what about it. I'm not sure what you're asking me. Like I said, the piping paste, the black, is what I used on the toucan that has been out there for many years. Okay, so you can leave that laying inside, or you can take that off and clean it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it because I'm going to show you how I write my name. You could also, these tips are stainless steel, so you can drop them in water, come back and clean it later if you don't have time, and maybe you're testing, you're like, okay, that one didn't work, it wouldn't even come out, I need to go to the bigger one. So don't hesitate to just drop them in the water and then just clean them later on that night. Okay, hopefully that helps. Okay, so now we're going to go back to this one. Isn't it amazing the difference in the color? Crazy. When this starts to dry, it turns powdery. And then when it fires, it becomes the color, which is insane that it changes that much. But so you kind of got to know, make sure you've made your chips for the different colors so that you can look at them and say, okay, this one will look good together, this one. So we are going to use 302 Glacier White, 344 powder blue, and 350 light cerulean. You could use all the ceruleans if you wanted it blue and no white, but I chose these just because I changed it up and not using the same colors all the time. So the back petals, if you noticed here, they are a little bit darker. So they have that 350 is the darkest color. So that's in the background down close to the center. So the lighter is on the tip. So it's white about a third of the way, and then we're going to add the powder blue the next third, and then the last part is the 350, and that's only on the ones behind. You see those 4 there? Those are the ones that are behind. The ones that are in the front, you've got 4 more in the front. Those are white and powder blue only, the 2 lighter colors. And then to make the leaves different, I use just the 2 blues on them. So you only have to have 3 colors, and you could do it with 2 also, but that's how you can use all those colors together. Okay. All right. So let me pop up another photo now that we're done with that one. I'm going to take this one away. And I'm going to put that one up there. So at the top on the left, you can see I started the veining on the top left petals. That's going to be done with Glitz. That's why I had to get some of this dry so I could show you that. At the bottom is what it looks like finished before it's fired. And these pictures are out there on that blog post. Okay, so I gave you those pictures out here too. I didn't put the, yeah, I did. I put the piping one on the first page. Okay, so tried to give you a lot of information. So what I've done is I like to take, these are the little 1/2 ounce jars that we sell. I like to put, I'm going to move this out of the way and stand it up so that I don't hit it. Make sure that you can see those. I'm going to use the 302. We're going to do the back pedal, the 344 and the 350. So I put a T on these. I think you can see that. And that means top. So like I said, these are the little 1/2 ounce jars. So let's, just so that you know how to mix correctly, I'm going to grab the 344 powder blue, and we're going to put some in with, these are the tools that we sell. If you just type in tool on the website, if you don't already have one, I'm going to put the powder in there, and then you need to add the glass medium, the GM 300. Comes in a lot of the kits, the glass kits. Be sure and get you a large bottle because there's not enough in those kits to liquefy everything. This is a 2 ounce, and then there's an 8 ounce bottle. And I don't have one of those with me. So you can, I mixed up some earlier, but you can mix it into what's there. Okay, so now we've got, it's like toothpaste. See that? See how thick it is? And hopefully you can see that. I'm going to add a couple of drops at a time. 1, 2. Hey, Linda. Might have to watch the replay. Yeah, I mean, the blog has the PDF and the video link out there. So go get it. You'll get the pattern and everything. You can use it on whatever you want. So I'm just adding a couple of drops at a time. Completely mix it up. And then to test the consistency, wipe your tool off. And we're going to go straight in and pull out really quick. And let me go to the side. Let me see if I can do that with those pictures there. I can. Yeah, my arm. Okay, so where are we at? So I'm going to go in here really, really fast and pull out, and it should drip by the count of 3. Okay, let's see if I can do it this way. 1, 2, 3. So it dripped by 3. Did you see that? Stir, wipe off your tip of your tool. 1, 2, 3. So it dripped by 2. We're good to go. Okay, so there's your drip test for consistency. That would be the perfect consistency. When you use the layering mix, it dulls or darkens the color. It doesn't happen with the metallics. It really depends, Stacy, on the application. Anytime you add any medium, and that would be considered a medium, it would thin that product out. Let me switch back to the, well, I'm going to leave it this way because I want you to be able to see the how I apply this. Let me get this in the camera. Okay. So if you have a specific color, Stacy, message me. I'll be happy to, or send me a picture of something you've done and see if I can usually tell by looking at a photograph. Okay, so the brush that I use, and mine's well used, is the CFE class brush. It's the 455. And we have 3 different sizes. I think this is the one, if I remember correctly. So always wet your brush, and then I blot it on the paper towel. So we're going to do the other 2 back petals. And did you notice I skipped a petal? So the ones that have T are the top. The back ones are all 3 colors. So when you skip one in between, if you were to get on your dam, your piping that you just did, it could merge over into the next petal, and then you've got a mess to try to clean up. So that's why I skip back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to start with white, and I'm going to put it on the tip. And you noticed I put it in a large opening, and then I'm pushing it towards the smaller areas. Let's just do one side at a time. And I want to make sure I push it against my piping. I want to tuck it in against there. Make sure it's there. And then you can kind of brush down a little bit because we're going to blend. I'm going to wipe off my excess onto my pod or my little jar, pick up the second blue, which is the 344, and I'm going to add it in the middle. So we're doing like a third, and a third of each color. So we're going to let these 2 colors touch. So I'm going to get it on there really well. Pull this down just a little bit. So I'm not doing this. I'm not brushing it on. That's too thin. You can't even see it. Let me see if I can get the light where you can see a little bit of it. So what I'm going to do is just on a paper towel, just kind of take off the excess of that color on my brush. Let me bring this one over here. And then I'm going to go up here where these 2 meet, and I'm going to kind of zigzag or shimmy it back and forth to blend those and create basically a third color between them. So it's not white, it's not powder, it's kind of a mix. So on the side camera, you can see I'm just barely touching it. I'm skimming the top surface so that it blends those 2 together. I can touch to my paper towel and say, you know what, I would like more white. So I can bring more white down. So there's different ways that you can pat the color in also to blend it. But just shimmy it back and forth. All right, so I have the second blue. Now I'm going to third blue. I'm going to start here in the large area. And then I'm going to pull just the top surface. I'm not pushing down against the glass, but I'm pulling that into the smaller areas and making sure that it's right up next to that piping. And then I'm going to shimmy it back and forth again. Wipe off my excess and just keep working that back and forth. If I want some of that 44, the lighter blue, I can come back and get some on my brush and I can add it. So if your color is the right consistency, and when you put down a dot of color, it should level itself out. Do you understand what I'm saying by level it out? Thank you. I'm glad you like the pieces. Okay, I'm going to go back just to the overhead. I think you've got that down. That way you can see the pieces there. And then, like I said, when I finish the silver one, I will show you also. All right, so I have white started at the top, but I need to go ahead and add more. So I'm going to constantly turn. Let me get these out of the way. My piece. And I'm kind of tilting my brush so you can see it. Normally I would work on top, and that's because it's going to let the color flow off of my bristles onto the piece. If you get lazy with the brush, you're not going to get that. And if you don't have enough on the brush, wipe off the excess onto the inside of the jar. I'm not worried about contamination. There's very little on my brush. So scoop it up. See how much I've got on there? Start in a large area. Flood that color on. Pool and puddle, flood, drop and fill, however you want to refer to it. And because you've got these little jars that you're working in, you can even pick up those jars if you're worried about dripping on your piece. You know, you could pick it up and come over here close to it if you needed to. All right, we've got the two colors there and we've got a line. So we need to shimmy those. I'm going to wipe off the excess and shimmy that back and forth. Or you can pat and blend also, whatever works for you. I'm going to wipe the excess. I like to shimmy it back and forth personally. So you can create any values of the different colors just by blending this way. So if I want more white, I can come back with white on my brush and add a little bit more white and blend that back in. And maybe I want to pull some down. Let me show you. So I've got it where, see, the white is more here. So you can make different lines of color also if you want that. I'm going to wipe off that. I'm going to grab the dark. So the key was, and what I mainly wanted to, I mean, I've done this type of painting before, but I wanted to show you how you can use what you've got. Hope, you know, if you don't have the paste and you want to do an outline, you want to pipe. I love to pipe and fill in my colors because I like to have that dam to flood my colors inside of, as opposed to freehand painting. Because if you paint that petal, you've got to let that dry before you can do the next one to it. This, as long as I skip one, I can keep going. So you limit yourself on how quickly you can get a piece done, I guess, is what I'm saying. So this is a way to do that. So shimmy, I'm going to wipe off the excess, and I'm just shimmying it back and forth, creating another color. So we're doing the back ones here. So we've got the darker color, the lighter color, and then the white. But there's other variations of it as you're going through, and you can kind of see the third color in between here on the leaves, because there's only two colors, but because where you blend them, you get a third color. Hopefully that makes sense. Would you be so kind, Brenda, saying to make some ornament kits with this for us? Yeah, I could do that. So you want a kit that has, but do you want blues? You know, you may decide you want pink poinsettias. If you want the red poinsettias, you're going to have to use only that's a good point to bring up. The GT colors. Let me see if I got one handy. 1 second. Let me, 411. Okay, so like if you wanted a red, this is a really old label. This is the GT 411. GT meaning toxic. It would not be food safe. And you could only use the 16, which is the orange, and the red together to make another color. You couldn't add white. You can't add pink on the end. So you would be strictly, and we have a yellow also, you would be only be able to use those colors together. Because if you put them with a regular G color, which is just G, this is GT, okay? Glass, toxic, glass. It can do weird things. You don't want to intermix the two of them. Maybe a mixture. Yeah. What other color would you like, Brenda? Would you like the mauve colors? I can do that. All right, I'm going to go over here to this one here is also a back petal. Up here, I'm going to see a little bit of the white on this side. The other side, I probably won't see it. Just put in there. Also, put in the comments things you'd like to see in the future, if there's something else. So what I'm probably going to do on the glass side of it is I'll just go through different products and go over, you know, basic information. I never worry about the ornament. That's true. That's true. If it's an ornament, yeah. But I don't want to put the GTs into a kit because there are people that might not remember that it isn't food safe. So just message me or email me, Brenda. Okay, and I can put you a kit together and tell you how much it is. What happens when we make kits? Then we don't sell, but a few of them, and then you go to all that trouble and then it never gets used. So, but I'd be happy to make you a kit and tell you what it would be. The other thing you can do is you could go in and see if there's a kit out there that you like, and then you just add, like we have a winter kit, which has some of the blues and whites and stuff, and then you just buy the layering mix separately and sparkle. So you might be able to get away with doing it that way. Okay, so see, I did white powder, and now I'm going into the cerulean. Put it in. I wiped off my tip just to make sure I had strong color. Let it fall off the brush. Tuck it in next to the piping so you don't have a gap. You don't want, the color to be out here. You want it to be right next to it. You want it to touch, because otherwise you could get what is called an air pocket, and it could open up because there's nothing there and you think it's pulled back. It's not really pulled back. It's just an air pocket that you didn't see because you didn't tuck that color up next to the piping. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So once again, you can just keep piddling with it and playing and blending until you get it like you want it. Okay. Isn't that pretty? And the one up in the upper left-hand corner is showing you before all the detail on the top. Because what happens is we're going to come on top of here with Glitz. And Glitz is a totally different product. It's a pre-mixed. I used the burnished gold. We do have one that's more silver. And I did not get that one out. Hold on one second. It's pearl, which is 604 pearl, is more of a silvery look to it. And that's the one that I'll use on that. If you join me late, I piped this one with silver sparkle. So I will use that for my veining on it. Okay. All right, let me look for questions. Make sure there's nothing. Okay. So now I can go back over here because I have this one is dry on both sides. So on the top, I'm only going to use the white and the 44. I'm going to put the 50 away, the 350. Sorry, I tend to talk with the last two digits. That's just the way I am. I think it has to do with entering them in QuickBooks and things. Okay, so just white. So now we only have two. So this was called a 3-color blend that we just did. So now we're going to do a 2-color blend on the front petals. Okay, so I'm going to use white and 344 powder blue. So Sue says, I would like to see how you would apply the products on a 3-dimensional piece, maybe on clay. Yeah, you would have, Sue's talking about ceramics. You would have to do it on one side, let that completely dry before you turned it over. Now, that brings into another thing, Sue. I don't know. I've never done it. If you have an ornament and you do one side and you let it dry and then you do the other side, but you have to hang that to fire it, or you set it on its, the opening. I don't know that the enamels are not going to run. I would have to try it. And it all depends on how hot you go. You're just making more work for me. You're making me think of other things I need to test. So if you test it, you let me know how that goes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thumbs up. Yeah. If you put thumbs up on the YouTube video, that allows YouTube to know that you like what you're seeing and helps get me out there in front of everyone. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, be sure you do that and click on the little bell so you get notifications when I go live or I upload. So I'm going to do half and half. I'm going to do one half, wipe off that excess of the white, grab the 44 powder blue. And remember, I said I would normally go like this, but you can't see anything if I'm over the top. So I'm putting my brush to the side, but you want to stand the brush up straight so that all the product falls off of it onto your piece. So I've got them side by side. I'm going to wipe off that excess, and now I'm going to shimmy those two together. And you can bring lines up into it if you want, but when you start going, when I go up like this, I now have white on the tip. I have to come over and wipe that white off, or it's going to transfer onto the next area. But you can definitely do that. If you shimmy back and forth, that kind of keeps it clean. And I'm barely touching that surface, just skimming the surface and basically creating a third color in between there. Okay, Ladybug says, would you please mention how and where do you apply the gifts on this project? Oh, the glitz. Yeah, I'm going to show you. That's why I painted some of these and they're dry as they're dry. So I'm going to do a couple of these and then we'll go to the detailing. Okay, I will get there. Give me just a minute. We're going to apply it with a brush. And I use the 3600 number 2 liner. This is a Taklon brush, great for the enamels, but it's fatter, so you don't get a nice fine line. So let me get this one in, and then I'm going to check these. They seem to be dry enough. That's why I did them beforehand, so that we could do that. Show you all the steps. Okay, so wipe some of that excess, shimmy it back and forth to create that third color between those. If you want more white, you say, well, you know what, I didn't like that up there. You can come back on top of it and pull it down. Okay. All right. I'm going to rinse that brush. And I can't tell if Facebook's got any other comments or not. It's not allowing me to see those. Okay, so that's how you do the front petals. And I marked them with the T for top. Okay. Let me do one of the leaves real quick so that you know how to do it. And that would be the 344 and the 350. So I use the same three colors, just different variations of them in the project. That way you're not, and always check your color to make sure that's getting a little thick. Can you see that it's like little like honey maybe? I'm going to add a couple of drops. Always add 1 to 2 drops until you're familiar with how much is there and how much you need. I mean, I know that I'm probably going to need 4 drops, but I'm doing it as if I were you so that you understand. 1, 2 more. And I'm just going to mix it with my brush. You could mix it with your tool if you wanted. Then I'm going to rinse my brush off because I don't want all that on there. Okay, we're going to do the leaf. So the lightest blue is the 344. It's going to be out on the tip. And it's going to come in halfway. And when I say halfway, we're going to come out on the points of the leaf because we have a little bit different shape than that petal was. I just thought the blue was very elegant. Kind of vintage. Okay, so you see how I've got it kind of, it's a little more than halfway, but coming back, and I'm going to wipe off that excess, go into the 350, and I'm going to start it at the other end. Remember, I would normally have my brush straight up and down like this so that the color falls off. I just want to make sure you can see it. Butt them up next to each other and then start your shimmy. So you can use what's on there and see how I'm going up against that veining, the center vein, just to make sure I have a little bit of darker color in there. I am going to wipe off the excess. So you're just kind of mushing it together, blending it. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. I can go back into the lighter if I want a little bit more. All right, I just got on my piping, so I'm going to rinse my brush, and I'm just going to take the clean brush and slide that off so that it came off of that. So I had some over here on the piping, so I just slid it off real quick. Okay. So that's how you can correct that. Either Facebook people are really quiet tonight, or I just can't see your comments. So start in a large area with a dollop on your brush. I scooped it up, and then pull it or push it into the smaller areas. All right, wipe off that excess. Grab the 350. So you could do 350, 51, and 52 if you wanted it a little bit darker. You could use white with the 333 Rosewater Pink, and then go with 331 Cabernet. Or you can go with the 32, the Deep Cranberry, and make it a little bit darker. So there's a lot of, just have 3 values is what you're looking for, is my recommendation. See, I'm just shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Maybe a little bit more of the blue on my brush, the light blue. And I just keep playing with it till I get it like I want it. You just kind of, you'll understand when you're doing it. All right. See, you can still see the variation. You've got the lighter, a medium tone, and then the darker at the base. Well, hello, Miss Donna Dewberry. How are you? I hope you still have power. That's awesome. Be safe down there. I know it's going to get scary. The other thing is the darker, the 350, is on the center. And like I said, it changes a lot when it's fired. Isn't that amazing? How it looks like this, and then it's going to turn to that. So you kind of got to know what it's going to do. If you're trying colors that I haven't used, make sure you've done your chip charts so that you know what those colors are going to fire like. It's always good to have those as a sample. So I'm just putting a little dollop or a little dot in there, but I am pushing it to make sure it contacts with the piping that we have on there. Okay. Constantly grabbing. So in other words, I'm not wiping everything that's on my brush off. I'm going back and reloading to get a proper load, because otherwise you just don't get enough on there. Drop and fill, pool and puddle. Okay, so there's your center. Hey, Curtis, thanks for joining. I think we're mesmerized. Is that what it is? I know a lot of people say, oh, I could just watch you paint. And I'm like, really? Okay. So every other petal, in case you just came in, to allow those to dry. I did some in prep for tonight so that they would be dry to show you the next step. And then you can go back and fill in. Okay. And I marked with the watercolor marker the T for the tops. I already did one over here. And that way you make sure that you've got the right ones with the right color combination. Okay. All right. So we need to put some dots out here on the berries. See how we've got those berries? Let me, I'm going to take away that one. So you, and actually I'm going to get rid of this one too, so you can see these. All right. So I'm going to go back to the piping, the gold that we made up. I'm going to check my tip. Uh-oh, looky there. It's already clogged. Okay, even though I had it in the damp paper towel. So what are we going to do? We're going to clean it. So I'm going to get my water, take off my tip, half a turn, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, pull some water in my syringe, attach the tip. Uh-oh. Ah, okay, so I couldn't push the water out. I had to pull more water up in it, okay? That's how quickly that layering mix mixed with the sparkle is going to dry in there. So clean it out as soon as you use it. It's just a better idea, okay? So that you don't have, and you don't want to lose your tip. The tips are $2 each, so you definitely want to make sure that you keep that clean. The other thing to do is to come in here and squirt a little bit out to make sure that it's not, see, it's coming out, so I know it's not clogged there. Attach that tip, half a turn, righty-tighty, squeeze, and it comes out. All right, so now we can move this back over here. Remember that your paper towel needs to be damp on one corner, so I'm going to re-moisten that so that I can keep that tip free of any debris or excess piping. So what I did was come in here and just start putting some dots for my berries. You can make them any color. If you keep going, your dots will get smaller. Let me turn that light so you can see. So you can make them larger by staying in one area for a long time, or less pressure. So you can kind of do your own thing. And then I came back and I added extra dots in blue, as you can see here on this one. Isn't that fun? Okay, when you use the layering mix, oh, that was the old comment. Sorry, Stacy. And I'm going to do some projects because you can actually do more of a traditional painting with the layering mix by putting a layer on, letting it dry 24 hours and come back in. But that requires, I would have to have 6 tiles probably the same and in different stages so you would understand. That's a more in-depth lesson. But I will try to do that. I'll pick something real simple, just like a leaf or something. Hopefully you like this and you'll give it a try. I think it's a fun piece, giving you enough time to get it done for a holiday. It'd be great to put the poinsettias, like 3 of them, around a 12-inch bowl and have, you know, the half, or not the full flower, but as much of this, you know, coming down. Or you could, if you can imagine, I don't have a circle, but I do have. So if this was your bowl and you started your design, you know, like here, so then you would only have a smaller amount on the inside. I think that'd be great. And I was going to do that with the blue glass, and then I decided to go with the rectangle instead because I didn't have as much of that blue. If you get too close together, they're going to merge. So keep that in mind. Hotter you go, they will have less texture, not stand up as much. Okay. And then if you have your, I think you guys can see it, like there's marker here from when I traced. See that purple marker? I'm just going to dampen my brush, blot it on a paper towel, and I can just, if it bothers you, just take a damp brush and you can get rid of it. It's going to fire away. It's not going to hurt anything. But if it's bothering you, you can definitely, or maybe you put a line in and you're like, I don't want to do that one. Take it off with the damp brush. Okay. Now you can also sign. So I'm going to sign my name here with the bottle. Check there. I was talking and didn't have it in my paper towel that was damp. So maybe you want to make some of this up just to do your signature. That would be fun. There's so many variations of what I'm showing you. I'm just trying to get you started. As soon as I get to Arizona, I will be doing this. They are food safe without capping. We talked earlier, Britt, the sparkles have a texture to them. I only went to, what did I tell you, 1420? Yeah, 1420 degrees. So mine still has a lot of texture to it. You can't cap the sparkles except for copper. You can do copper, which would look great with the reds, until you fired it. But I am going to put some enamel on part of this, like maybe 2 petals and a leaf, and I'm going to cap it with clear, and I'm going to post it. What happens? I think it'll be fine, but the gold tends to wash out to a flesh tone, and your silver sparkle tends to go somewhat white. Copper will stay copper in between glass. So let me do another test, okay, before you go to that. So here's the one that I did with the silver. So this is the silver sparkle mixed with a layering mix. I'm going to do the same blues that I did here. I just wanted to show it in silver and gold. So I will do that one. And then this one was the gold. So to do the next step, but what happened last time? I need to clean I'm going to drop my tip in the water. I'm not going to clean it and waste your time, but I am going to drop it. And what are you supposed to do with your bottle? Lay it flat so that you don't get any air pockets in there and it burps, so to speak, on your piece. Okay. So to finalize this, these fine veins, and I did not put them on the pattern because there's too many of them. You just kind of have to freehand it. Okay. And you've got a picture to look at. You've got the finished photograph and everything out there. I'm going to use the GZ605. Sorry, my labels are really, I use my stuff a lot, rub it off. You're welcome, Bobby. I'm glad you like it. And Bobby, you're from Missouri, right? I canceled the class in Tulsa. I'm shaking this, okay? This is a pre-mixed. I broke a rib before I left for the South Carolina show, and I really need to heal. So I have canceled that class and we'll reschedule it later because I think you guys were going down for that class. Okay, Rose says I might have to brush up on circle cutting to make a poinsettia ornaments. Yeah, and I have another, I don't have it handy. I have something else in a couple of weeks for glass people. I have some new, possibly new ornaments that are going to be cut. Yeah, Bobby, but I think you guys were going over to Tulsa to take that class. So that has been canceled, just FYI. I haven't put anything out on Facebook about it yet. But I did tell June we needed to cancel it so I could recover. So this is a pre-mixed. It's a finer granule than what the powdered sparkles are, okay? And you shake it until it is no more attached to the bottom, or you need to stir it. So I just keep shaking, and when you turn it over and it completely releases, then you know you've got it shook up well. Yes, please tell Brenda. Yep, for sure. All right, I am going to open this over here over a towel because there tends to be little crumbs on, and I don't want to drop it on my wet product. Yeah, see, no matter how much you clean it, because I like using out of the lid, that's why it gets messy. But I'm going to wipe it off. And then I'm going to dump this so I don't get it all over. And then I'm going to put this back on, and I'm going to get some shook up and in my lid, because I like to use right there out of the lid. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go to the 3600 number 2 liner. That's that Kolinsky liner. Okay. So it's a natural hair. I am going to wet it, blot it on the paper towel. And then I got to remember which ones were, there's nothing on the leaf. We need to do, let's see, this one over here, I think is the one that is the driest. We'll find out. So load right there in that lid. See how that, And then if you're using out of the jar, stir to the bottom. Just make sure you keep it mixed up because it does separate. Okay, you can drag it off the jar to get a nice fine point. And then you want to start at the center vein that you already have there and just lightly, and it's going to drag. You have to kind of, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see it a little closer, and I'll tilt it. It drags because it's grabbing to the dry enamel that's already on there. So you may have to go over that area, but I'm just barely tickling it, just itty bitty. If you want to see, I can put the side camera on if you think that would help you, but I think you can see it's just ever so lightly. Make sure I'm not putting my finger in wet product. I'm just barely touching it. So what is the upcoming glass ornaments? You're going to have to wait on that. I need to make sure that I had somebody locally cut me some shapes. One's around, and I need to make sure that they are going to be able to do. And I need to fire them, okay? As soon as I fire them, I will let you know. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to do a class. They're somewhat involved, but they're really cool. I'm teasing you. Sorry. I'll fire them probably in the next week, and then if they work, we may have to modify some things because of some tiny areas. But I will let you know. I think you'll like them. See how I'm just barely touching that because you want to try to get them nice and fine. And it's like little trees, growing out of there. And you got to keep that tip nice and pointy so you don't get real thick lines. And then if you don't have enough on there and it absorbs into the enamel, you got to get more on the brush because it tries to grab. It does. It's absorbing into it. Whoops. And because normally I don't hold this up. So I have a larger area there. So if that happens, just make sure you have a thicker area somewhere else, kind of like when we do the outlining, just to make sure it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. But isn't that cool? And let me see if I can tilt it enough that you can kind of, it's hard to see the glitzy part of it. There you can kind of see the shimmer of it. Yeah. Okay. So you would just go through and do all of that. Now on the leaves, I sumi shaded that one. This one's wet. We can do this one. So let me rinse this brush. I don't want to leave that product in there. I'm going to go to the sumi brush and I'm going to put water on it, but I'm going to drag it across the top of my basin, my water bowl, that I'm removing a lot of it off of my brush, and I'm just barely picking up on the very tiny tip of it. And you've got to get it on there and get off, because once you add moisture to that enamel, it's going to start lifting off your piece. So you just put it on there and get it done. I'm going to rinse, grab some more. I want it over here. And then I also want it down one side. And I'm done. You want to just really not putz around with it very much at all. Okay. So that's what I did on these. Can you see the shimmer? It's hard to see with the light. So I shaded up next to the poinsettia, and then I went down one side. You wouldn't have to do that. You could put veins on there. If you did, you need larger veins. You don't want these type of veins. Okay. Now, on this one, I put the glitz around the outside. So all I had was just the outline. So we can do that on this guy. So I can go in here and grab some of that. I'm going to stir it. And I just came in here and kind of puddled that color. Make sure you don't have any fingerprints or any oils, you know, on those areas, or it could repel the product. And I did touch the edges of this, so I'm just going kind of back and forth on the edge to try to get rid of any residue that might be there resisting. Now, anytime you're working with the enamels, you need to make sure that your edges are clean before you fire. And I usually do that with a Q-tip. I just seesaw it back and forth. I'm going to just add, because this is a different gold than what is the sparkle is. So I'm just going to add that because we want to test this between glass and we want to know what it does. Okay. Now, it looks really thin. Add a little bit more here. When the Glitz fires, there is a residue or a burn off, we call it. So after it's fired and you touch it, you're going to say, and I'm going to show it to you on my finished piece. Okay. It's exciting, Rose. Awesome. Can you also sponge that stuff on too? Boy, I would not, Brenda, because this is pricey. This little half-ounce jar is like, I want to say $11.75. I wouldn't use this one. I hated even putting that sumi brush in there. I would have rather had it in my lid to use. Okay, so it's pretty pricey. Any enamel, sponging it, just trying to get it to adhere, and I just to the glass when you're sponging, you're going to waste more than you actually get on there. But if you had layering mix mixed with the enamel, it's going to hold better. You can stamp with layering mix and the enamel mixture. You can stamp with it and it'll stay on. Okay. Then you could come back and you could add other dots up here. We can add, I put dots of Glitz in the middle of the center, but I'm going to clean my finger real quick. Make sure there's nothing on it. And when I rub across this, I pulled it out yesterday. Did I pull it yesterday morning? There is, I know it's hard to tell, there is still a little bit of a residue on my hand. So after it fires, that's what the burn off is called. Okay. So keep that in mind. You're going to say, oh my gosh, I didn't fire it hot enough and it's coming off. No, it's just the excess, for lack of a better word, the fine mica that's in this base. It's not just mica, but that tends to sit on the surface and it comes off on your hand. I don't know if it's on this one that I can show you someplace. Oh, there we go. Let me do this. Can you see? I think you can see it on the tip of my finger. Do you see that gold? Because it was still in the middle. I hadn't rubbed that area. So, and I can show you right there on the towel. So it's still there. So some of the, and this is really thinly applied, but it's okay. I mean, it's a nice vintage type look. There's 5 different colors in the Glitz that you can go with. There is a, the 601 is pearl, and it is, no, 604 is pearl. That's the one I'm going to use with the silver. I don't have the 601. It's like a, oh, it's great on like dragonfly wings. It's very soft and it could be used on anything. Okay. All right. So does that hopefully help you with different things to do? I will show you what happens with all of that whenever I finish it. Give me a couple of days. I'm not going to sit here and paint the whole thing tonight because I need to let my rib heal. So don't forget, let me back the camera off. You've got the PDF that's on the blog. So just go to the website, go to the blog, touch glass, you'll see the picture, click on it, and then it'll say PDF. If you missed in the front, I did use the pink tip and I wrote in the yellow tip on the instructions. So the firing instructions are here, how I did it. You can full fuse. Mine left a texture because I only went to 1420 with a 10-minute hold. So you can kind of see the texture, especially on the little dots. Oh, the only other thing I didn't do was I took the cerulean and added blue dots out here on the, before I switch cameras. And you can take the, we have that RD66, the wipeout tool. You can take it, it's like a little pointy end to it. And you can go over here and touch and add those around if you want. Now see, that one merged, so I could take it off, or I can just let it dry a little bit and scratch off the excess. The longer I leave it on there, the more product is going to fall down onto the surface. You could do it with a paintbrush handle, but this is going to give you little tiny areas, and you're kind of tight where you're working. So you could also use a toothpick. That would make a fine point, or a pencil point. You can do it that way too. Pencil lead, you know, the end of a pencil. So you would just take your, I can't find my toothpick, or you can take these pointed Q-tips and you could remove some of that off of there also. Okay, make sure that you come and seesaw back and forth with your Q-tip and remove any excess product that's on the side, because if it's on there, it's going to be on there when you fire. There is no, I've got a little white dot of enamel right there. And I can't tip this because I just put those dots on, but make sure you check the sides, check the bottom, make sure you haven't laid it in anything. And then this one is going to go on the same blue. So I will put this down. I will sift clear powdered frit on there, just so I can help eliminate any bubbles in between. And then I will lay this one on and not sift over it, because I don't want to sift over the gold sparkle. Okay. All right. Hopefully that gives you some options, gives you some ideas, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. Let me go back to me. Any last questions? Don't forget, we've got that coupon code, and I should have showed you that. Live 1024. Live 1024, all caps, will save you 10% off for a week till the 15th. Doesn't matter what you use it on. You can use it on brushes, enamels, color concentrates, whatever you want. Okay. You're welcome. I'm glad I could answer the questions. You can always send me other questions via Messenger, or you can email me. And guys, you can send me pictures of what you're doing. I have people do it all the time and say, hey, why did this happen? Or where would you start? I'll be happy to give you my opinion and help you try to troubleshoot. But pictures, firing schedule is helpful, and exactly what products you use, because you may say, I used enamels, but I find out you use color concentrates, which is a non-enamel. So make sure you list the product number and name. That's going to help me troubleshoot and help you succeed. And if you succeed, I succeed. Okay. All right. So Britt says, does the GS504 doesn't show up on the site? It is there. If you go under enamels, Britt, and then go down to sparkles, the GSs, everything should be there. Don't try to type in the whole number. It has a dash between the S. Just type in 504 and it's going to pop up on your search. Anytime you're searching for anything on the website, less is more. So type in less and you're going to find it. So if you want a liner, you don't know the number, it's going to bring up any liner, and then you can sift through, the ones that are on there. Okay, so I only used 3 brushes. They're listed on your paperwork. The CFE class brush, the Klinsky liner, and then the small sumi. And you wouldn't have to do the sumi if you didn't want that on there. Okay. You are very welcome. All right, guys. Next week we're doing ceramics. I've got some patterns drawn up. I need to get painting on those, and I'll get it posted and tell you what we're going to do. All right. Tag me. I can't wait to see what you guys do, and I will post these when I'm done firing them. All right. Have a good evening. Take care.